yours. Welcome to EMS at Sea Level. I'm here with Bram de Zwart from 3D Hubs. Bram, thanks very much for joining me. Let's start with a brief introduction to you, a bit of background on you, and a quick introduction to 3D Hubs for anybody that's not aware of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm Bram, I'm the co-founder and the CEO of 3D Hubs. Background in industrial design and engineering, where I was already machining and 3D printing parts back in 2003, based off my CAD designs, and they got me very excited about these more automated, computer-controlled manufacturing technologies. So I wrote a master thesis in 2009 on how this automated manufacturing could lead to a future of decentralization. So where you have all these automated factories around the world, and you make parts when and where they are needed. And then after that, I joined the first company in the world to use 3D printing to create not just prototypes, but actual consumer products. The name was Freedom of Creation. And our big success story was 3D printed iPhone cases that Apple decided to sell in many of their stores globally. This was around 2010. Then the company got acquired by 3D Systems, where I worked another 2 years as a product manager. So they're a leader in industrial 3D printing. And then in 2013, you started seeing these online platforms come up like Uber, Airbnb. And for me and my co-founder Brian, that was quite incredible because we had this vision of manufacturing will decentralize, and with the online platform model, you can accelerate that future. And so we started very much on kind of the peer-to-peer 3D printing side. You may remember there was a lot of hype around 3D printing in 2013. And so there were a lot of people buying these desktop 3D printers. Then they sat idle after a few weeks, 95% of the time. And we allowed these individuals from their living room or their garage to offer 3D prints to people in their neighborhood. And so in a few years, we had 30,000 of these printer owners connected. Wow. We did 10,000 orders a month, so we became the world's largest in peer-to-peer 3D printing. But it was around 2017 that we realized that the market for kind of hobbyist peer-to-peer 3D printing wasn't that large. So on the same vision, but with a different kind of strategy, we continued and we basically pivoted towards the industrial route. So we really focused on professional factories in the supplier network. And getting industrial customers who need prototypes and small series production done, not just in 3D printing, but also CNC machining, and since last year, sheet metal fabrication and injection molding. And so, what 3D Hubs does today is basically connect industrial companies, engineers to a global network of factories, basically, through an online platform.
Yeah. So just talk me through the typical journey of a customer. They go to your site, and one of the attractions is the idea of a instant quote. They upload CAD material. Is that how it works? And then you give them access to that whole group of manufacturing partners through that. How does that typically work for them?
Yeah, that's right. So it's typically an engineer who has a CAD file. They upload it on our platform, and then within seconds, we calculate a price for production, which we do through machine learning and the data of 6 million parts that we've already produced. So for each part that we've produced, we have the CAD file, so we have all the geometric data. We have the manufacturing specs of the customer, such as the material, the quantity, the tolerance, and then we know historically what the suppliers in our network are willing to produce for. So all of the data we use to basically, when we see a new CAD file and when we see the manufacturing specs of the client, basically predict the price of production in our supplier network, and then instantly show a price in 96% of projects. We can do that, and we guarantee the price, so we take the pricing risk. Okay. So that is the first part of the value of our platform, is that basically where historically you would go to a factory, you spend days to weeks and 10 email and phone call back and forwards with a factory in order to get the design and manufacturing specs agreed on and get to a quote. This all happens instantly on our platform. Also because we also have developed our in-house DFM software. So design for manufacturability software. So we check if the customer design is actually physically manufacturable in the specifications that they want. And so
And that's done on the fly as once the thing's uploaded in the quoting process.
Yeah, also within seconds. And in the 3D viewing environment, we show to the customer which parts of their design will need to be adjusted in order to make the design manufacturable, or they can switch to another manufacturing technology or material that can handle that particular geometry.
Okay. And when you look at the other side of the equation, the suppliers, you came from an environment where you were crowdsourcing vacant capacity, if you like, on people's home 3D printers. Is that a similar instance here with your manufacturing partners? Are you part of their mainstay production, or are you filling gaps in their production? How does your relationship with the manufacturers work?
Yeah, so what we're seeing is that on average, we drive about 20% of their total volume. So I think we're quite an important customer for most manufacturing partners in our network. We also want to be, we want to make sure that our customers are getting a standardized experience, independent of which manufacturing partner produces the order. And in order to achieve that, we need to drive enough volume to each partner for them to read and follow our global standards. But yeah, of course, we help them to kind of make sure that they get to almost 100% of their capacity filled all the time, because the way we route orders in our supplier network is that we show the order to multiple matching manufacturing partners. And so you're not, when you get an order on the portal as a factory, you're not obliged to take it. You can just take it whenever you have capacity and you feel that the order is right for your capabilities.
Yeah, that's a great flexibility for the manufacturing partner, isn't it? And I guess, then they can select not just jobs to do that fill their capacity, but jobs that really hit their sweet spot in terms of technology, in terms of specification. What about bringing manufacturers on board? What's the process like there? Is there an audit process? Is there a qualification process?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we onboard a new new manufacturing partner, we can do we can partly do kind of on-site audits right now due to COVID. We do actually have also people on the ground in India, China, Mexico, so they can do it for us. But yeah, we have like a very extensive kind of onboarding and audit process to make sure that they meet kind of the standards that we want. And over time, we've also learned, of course, which manufacturing partners are more successful on our platform than others. Not for every factory around the world, it's a good fit. And so we know quite well by now what we need to look for in a partner. And so that's something that we can audit on. And then, actually all the orders for our customers, at least the non-3D printing ones, so that's machining, injection molding, sheet metal, are actually inspected by our team. So they're not directly shipped to the customer. And so there's an additional step where we do QC. So that's a kind of additional measure for the customer to make sure they really get a good experience.
Yeah. And you mentioned India, China, Mexico. Is it a global footprint of manufacturing? And has there been any dramatic shift in that footprint as we've gone through the different time frame of this COVID crisis this year?
Yes, when COVID hit, we quite quickly realized that geographic diversification of the manufacturing partner network is very critical in order to have a continued service to our customers. So, we saw suddenly China go into lockdown not long after India. And other regions around the world. And so, if you're too dependent on a single region, that can be, that means basically you can no longer deliver to your customers. I think there are also other factors in the world, such as escalating trade wars. Chinese New Year is a big event, of course, where their factories close for a few weeks. And so we said, okay, we're going to geographically diversify and make sure we can always deliver to our customers. So basically building a very resilient supply chain. And so this year we doubled the number of regions where we have manufacturing partners around the globe.
Yeah,
And there's
that's really
no other
important.
company as distributed as us, basically, in terms of supplier footprint or manufacturing footprint.
Yeah. So when you look at that, are some of the customers saying to you now, we want a China plus one strategy, or we don't want too much dependence on a particular region, or show us that you can manufacture this in, you know, both the Americas and Europe, or that are they looking for that kind of distribution when they're planning their supply chain with you?
Yeah, it does come up in conversations with our account management team, for example. And but in the end, I think it should also show in the reliability of our service, right? So us always being able to deliver on time, I think is a result of building that geographic diversification. And so
Yeah,
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 I think as we continue to see more of these dynamics with COVID, trade wars, etc., I think we just need to continue to prove it that it, you
yeah.
know, it has value, right? So I think that's the most important.
Yeah, and when you look at what's happened this year, do you think it's been something that has really showed the mettle and the capability that you have? It's really been able to shine a light on this idea of a large global manufacturing ecosystem as having more agility and resilience. Do you think it's been a strong proof point for your business model?
Well, honestly, when COVID first hit, you know, we were surprised. So then I think we, you know, there were definitely orders that were late, and we needed to quickly reroute orders, you know, as well as we could. But yeah, so that was a great learning experience for us around March. Like, okay, we need to do something about this. So I think, you know, the honest answer was in spring, we did have issues with our kind of reliability, and now since then we started building that geographic diversification, and so now we're much better prepared for new lockdowns, and also for Chinese New Year, which is of course is a recurring annual challenge for many companies in manufacturing.
Yeah, and the next disruption, which, you know, might be politically based, might be health, could be a natural disaster, could be anything. So I think resilience to those disruptions in the supply chain is huge. One of the things that several people have said to me throughout this year is that they've seen COVID as an accelerator for digital transformation. They felt that we were going along this digital journey, but this has been a real inflection point, and it's changed from being a we'll do that sometime project to a must-do project. Do you see that as something that you're hearing in the market? People are much keener to digitally transform, create the visibility that things like using your platform give to their supply chain.
Yeah, I think that's happening. I think that's also kind of reflected in our growth even this year, where, you know, the output from many manufacturers around the globe has seen a very strong decline. We're doubling our net revenue this year despite COVID. So I think that is a sign that the industry is moving more and more online. Where maybe historically it was relying more on kind of local relationships and then visiting your local supplier, and that has become more challenging with COVID. So I think, you know, where we just already when we started saw, especially the younger generation, the younger engineers, kind of expecting that on-demand platform also manufacturing, just like they were used to in the, you know, with Uber or Airbnb. Now they're expecting that in manufacturing as well, and and I think now, maybe due to COVID, every generation is kind of trying that out and seeing the benefits.
And I think there is definitely an acceleration there, and it's certainly an acceleration in terms of desire. And as you say, when you look at that younger generation of engineers that have grown up with Uber, and they have an Amazon and all those kind of things, and they have an expectancy in terms of the speed at which stuff can be delivered and the speed at which they can get prices and all those kind of things, it makes perfect sense. When you look at what you're doing, and the volumes that you're doing. And I see that it makes perfect sense when it's a prototype, when it's small volume. When it gets very high volume, do you see that as something that your model can grow into, or is that at some point do you have to hand off to perhaps a more traditional supply chain model? How does it work when volumes start to rise?
Yeah, I think our platform can definitely grow into that. At the moment when volumes are very large, and we have done orders of a few $100,000 already, but it's not something that we would instantly quote on the platform and then guarantee the price on. It's too risky, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a mix of the features of our online platform, but also supported by our sales and engineering team, who basically then get quotes from our global supplier network, and the benefit, of course, that we already have long relationships with these suppliers. We drive a lot of volume, and so it's easy for us to get quotes from them, where, especially for SME customers, it might not always be that easy to get quotes from a global network of suppliers and compare prices and lead times on them. That they will take some effort.
No, it's definitely exciting times in terms of the technology, and certainly in terms of these ecosystems, or manufacturing as a service hubs, or whatever you want to call them. What about for your business? What's the whole COVID experience like? You're in the Netherlands. You've gone through one of the first wave in Europe was pretty bad. You're just kicking into the second wave, 2 different periods of lockdown. How's that been with keeping the team motivated, keeping everybody together and focused on your goals?
Yeah, it's interesting times, of course. We, I think one of the benefits we had, or the advantage we had when COVID hit, was that we already had 4 offices globally. We allowed people to work from home 1 day per week. So I think we already had all the systems in place to work with a globally distributed team, work well together, and including a certain cadence of like meetings, all hands meetings. And so when COVID hit, one of the things I started doing was giving a weekly update to the team on how we as a management team were thinking about all the developments and what it means for our business. We actually immediately updated our strategy with a strong focus on that supply chain resilience and geographic diversification that I already talked about, and communicated that to the team. So we adjusted strategy immediately. And I think I think people got used to it. I think I think it's actually going quite well. We did a survey and amongst our team, and 94% said that they feel equally or even more productive than before. So that is something that we have to take very serious, and we're currently thinking about, okay, what does that mean for the future of work, right? If people, most people feel equally or more productive than instead of going to the office every day. So
I think that's fascinating, Bram. When I look forward to 2021, the whole idea of what the new normal becomes, and what work from home means, and what the work from home and the work in the office mix is, and what companies that employ a lot of people need in terms of real estate. We already know that companies like Facebook and Google have said no staff in the office till at least the middle of 2021, which is a long way. And I've heard other large companies saying, we're not sure we're ever going to go back to that everybody in the office every day environment. But it was great that you already had people geared up to work from home part of their week, because it meant you had the infrastructure in place. The all hands meetings make perfect sense. It's great to have that communication, isn't it? But I think it's one of those, for me, it's been one of those periods for real leadership, and for you to be able to say, okay, well, we're shifting strategy, we're responding quickly, we're doing this, this, and this, and you're constantly updating your staff about what that means for the business. That must have made them feel much more relaxed. Is that something you felt, that everybody was kind of pulling together as a team?
Yeah, I think so. I think, of course, for me, it's hard to see because everyone, you have 140
Yeah,
people just sitting at home, and sometimes you see them on the video. But I
yeah.
think so. The way we try to measure that as well. And so, most recent employee net promoter score is plus 59, which is very high.
Mm,
So I think that, yeah, that is a sign that I think in general it's going quite well, and there's a good team spirit, and um,
yeah.
yeah, most people are doing well. I think, for me, it's probably easier because I have a family, a wife, and children, and so when I have to work from home, um, I'm not just by myself. Although
Yeah.
I'm very glad that the children are still allowed to go to school and daycare.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's of course not for everyone. That's the case, like especially the younger people on our team. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I hope this second lockdown here doesn't take too long.
Yeah, no, it's important to take care of the team, isn't it, in these instances? And how have you been coping? Have you been binging on Netflix and watching lots of TV shows, or since you can't go out to your favorite restaurants and all that kind of thing, what's been keeping you and your family sane through this process?
um, yeah, honestly, when you are running a company our size and you have young children, you don't have that much free time. But
You don't have free
I
time anyway. No.
no, not that much. But I do enjoy Netflix sometimes too, before I go to bed, and kind of
Yeah,
yeah, get all the work stuff out of my head. Yeah.
bit of relaxation time. Last question before we wrap up here, Bram. What advice would you give to your peers, to people running businesses, as we do go through this potential second wave? What's the most important things you can be doing at the moment whilst you're running a business?
Yeah, I think many peers already realize this and have probably done it, but I think it's very important to immediately reassess your strategy. Like, is this really
Mm,
what's going to work in this new environment for us? So, I think I'm glad we immediately. I think we quickly kind of saw the severity of the impact, and that it's going to be
mm,
long lasting. And so, yeah, kind of adjust our direction quickly. I think that is important. And yeah, and I think secondly, very frequent communications to the team. Like, you can almost not over communicate in these
yeah,
times.
yeah,
So yeah, me having that weekly kind of cadence of presenting to the team, and you know, especially at the start of the crisis, sending a weekly email and a weekly presentation. I think that's very important.
yeah.
Actually, something that we also are doing is that our people team organizes these coffee meetings with like 4
Mm,
people, random people from the team. And they
okay.
just put it in everyone's calendar. And I think that's, normally in the office, you have this kind of unexpected chit chat
Yeah,
at the coffee machine, which is very valuable,
yeah.
both to kind of learn something you didn't know about another part of the business, but also, yeah, just for the social
Just
interaction, right?
team.
And so
Yeah.
that we're now doing virtually, and that's being facilitated by our people team.
Yeah.
So I think,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting, isn't it, Bram? There are things that you do through this process that actually you think, oh wow, that's better. We need to keep doing that afterwards. That's something that the regular cadence of communicating with the team, all those kind of things, that simple, occasional social interaction in small groups as well as in large groups. I think that makes perfect sense. But I think one of the most important things was that quickly assessing what the new normal looks like and reassessing strategy and getting moving on that. I think that's a hugely strong piece of advice, and I would imagine most people have had the opportunity to do that already. So thank you so much for your time, Bram. Great to talk to you. Continued success. Obviously, a very relevant and successful business model. So I'm sure it will continue to go forward. Thanks very much for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Philip.